This podcast is sponsored by Release Winery. Every wine tells a story. Each growing season, it's our goal to create an artisan Napa Valley wine of exceptional quality. Join us as the story of this ultra-limited wine continues. Learn more at releasewinery.com.
I'm from Canada originally.
I didn't know that. What part of
Yes,
Canada?
from just outside the Toronto area. I always had a fascination for journalism and the news, and I think I just grew up in a household where my parents were news junkies and we listened to the news. When radio was big back then, at 5 o'clock having dinner, we couldn't talk as kids because the news was on. Always were encouraged to read the newspaper and to know what was happening in the world. And I just have a natural curiosity in general, and I think that it was the perfect profession for me to explore based on that natural curiosity. And I started in Canada and studied journalism, got my first job working in television when I was quite young, at 20, and worked my way through various television markets in Canada, spent the first 10 years of my career in Canada, moved to Seattle in 1998 to be the main anchor for the Fox affiliate in Seattle. And I was there for 7 years, and then I moved to Los Angeles to work for ABC News, where I was there for 9 years, and during the course of that time I met Rich. Strangely enough, we met in Napa. We both had a love for wine, even when we didn't know each other, and Napa was a place that I always spent time exploring. A few times a year I would come here. It was a nice, easy getaway and a nice break from the hectic pace of working in the TV news world in LA. And our paths crossed, I think it was back in 2005 when we first met. So
it's a terrific story.
We were seated beside each other at Bouchon Bistro on a Saturday evening, and as you know, it's a very intimate bistro, and you're close together, and Rich is a very outgoing man and struck up a conversation, and we realized that we were both living in Los Angeles at the time and had a passion for wine and current events and just had a lot of common interests, and as time went on, we got to know each other better, and we were married in 2012 here at the winery. Right.
Serendipity. It just happens, and it was great. It was just happened to be that night we were put next to each other.
Right.
Who couldn't plan it.
But it's truly the love of wine that brings people here.
Totally.
And then you find true love after wine.
Well, I started out originally out of University of Illinois, going to New York and working on Madison Avenue. Actually, the time that it was portrayed in Mad Men. That's about the time that I entered there, and worked in the advertising business for a number of years, and ultimately started selling advertising time for television stations, which ended up in my moving to Los Angeles to be the sales manager of Channel 5, KTLA in Los Angeles. And from there, I met Michael Eisner at a meeting, and he hired me over at Paramount and worked there for a number of years on shows that most of your listeners are probably too young to know, but Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and Walk and Mindy and Taxi and Cheers and that type of show. And then after about 10 years went to Disney, where I was president of the studio. I always say from Little Mermaid to Lion King, as opposed to saying years. And we had a great time there, and it was about the best place ever to be able to work. And that's what I say to everybody here. How can you go from something better than Disney? And we ended up finding it here in Napa, and now we have a job where we have to eat and drink and meet people. It's pretty perfect. We've tried to expose what's here by not changing it, but by just making it neater and painting it correctly, and letting people look at the buildings and realize what was here in the past. Just a funny side story. Because it is a National Historic Landmark, there's only things you can do not only in the building, but around the building. And there was, within 100 feet of the building, you have to obey certain regulations. And so when we started, I don't know, a little over 10 years ago, thinking the property, the parking lot was where the train tracks ran all the way through, and it went all the way up to Calistoga in the old days. And that train stopped running, and we use it as a parking lot. The land was given back. But I wanted to make it look like an old-fashioned train station stop when the train would stop. And I was told by them we couldn't do it. It looked too original.
Too much like that.
Yes.
It would have been in the 90s, and I was still living in Seattle at the time. And my first experience here, I fell in love with it immediately, just like most people do. And I did what most people do the first time they come to Napa. You go to sort of the obvious places, the Mondavis, the Behringers, the places that have been around for a long time and can accommodate, tours, and and of course the food up here is just incredible. I mean, the restaurants are amazing, and the quality of the chefs here, you have world-class restaurants here. So combine that with delicious wine from Napa Valley and the surroundings, and it's pretty much a perfect place to be. So I fell in love with it instantly, which is why I continued to make it a regular trip a few times a year, and that was sort of the start of it for me. And then you want to discover the off-the-beaten-path wineries so that you can take a bottle of something great back to your friends and say, well, have you tried this? Which we all like to do. Yes. And and then I think I joined every wine club that of the wineries that I enjoyed the wine. So I had more wine than I knew what to do with, but it's all part of the learning experience and the discovery process of Napa.
We didn't start a wine club until probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And the reason was the ones I joined never quite told you what you were going to get. And so I'd get 1 bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon and 5 bottles of Sauvignon Blanc. And I like Cabernet Sauvignon. So the first wine club we did, we said, one of everything. That's the club. It's a sampler club. And we promise that if you've sampled it for the next couple of weeks, you can order more of it. Yeah, sure. Because a lot of times a lot of our wines are very limited. And people would say, well, I came last February and got the Sangiovese, but now I came in March and you're out of it. So this was a way to really just reach out to people who were coming in all the time. And then, like all things, it started multiplying. So we had a group that said, I only like reds. I only like bubbles. And it started spreading.
The idea is to have a club that people want to be a part of because they enjoy getting the wines that they want to drink, not the wines that the winery tells them they need to drink. So we've modeled our wine club with different clubs. As you said, the Bubbles Club. We have a sampler club where it's everything we make. Reds Club, Reserves Club, and we have a Winston Hill Club, which is very limited because we make limited amounts of Winston Hill wines. But there's 3 levels of the club: the bronze, silver, and gold. You want 6 bottles each shipment. You're the bronze, 12 bottles silver, and 24 bottles gold. So it's also reflected in the discounts that you get when you purchase more wine. But we keep in touch with our wine club members all year long. They're invited to exclusive events here at the winery. Obviously, they have first chance at getting new releases, and we keep them in the know.
Now they have something that only they can get, and maybe we make only 200 cases of it, and it works really well.
We also ship twice a year. Some wine clubs are every couple of months. We ship in the spring, we ship in the fall. Come to Frank Family. That's an easy one. One bit of advice I would give people when they come to the Valley, though, is to not overdo it. Give yourself enough time in the Valley I know that time is precious and you may only have a couple of days, but then come back another time. Because if you cram in too many wineries, you sort of lose sight of what you're drinking, and it's hard to really discriminate one wine from the other. And so I think the experience, the overall experience, is better if you limit it to maybe 2, 3 at the most, but I would say 2 per day. Enjoy the valley too. Come up here, hit a winery in the morning, go for a great lunch somewhere, do another winery in the afternoon, then take some time to maybe go back to your hotel and relax, and then go out to a great dinner. It's a full day, and it's a full day of consuming wine, and you really want to take it in and enjoy it. So if you have too much going on, you kind of miss something along the way.
You also don't realize how much wine you're drinking.
And have a driver when you're up here. Absolutely have a driver.
When you drink a little at a time at a number of places, you can really consume much more than you think. We always are asking groups that come in who's the designated driver, and we hope that they have some kind of car service, and even if they're splitting it with somebody else, it's just safer and you'll have a better time.
This podcast is sponsored by Release Winery. Every wine tells a story. Each growing season, it's our goal to create an artisan Napa Valley wine of exceptional quality. Join us as the story of this ultra-limited wine continues. Learn more at releasewinery.com.